Last time on the Star Trek Guru.
Man, that storm's getting worse and worse. Damn, that was a close one. Next episode is Mirror Mirror, and I, for one, cannot wait.
Hello.
Who the hell are you?
Your evil self from another universe, duh. Did you really think you were going to review the seminal original series episode Mirror Mirror like a normal episode?
How did you know?
Never mind that. Basically, I'm you, but a bad girl. Well, actually, I don't identify as a girl. I identify as a threat.
Okay, I got that. What am I supposed to call you?
Well, you're Ren, and the laws of evil universe counterparts dictates that my name should be the same as yours, but backwards. So I'm Nur.
What kind of a name is Nur? What kind of a name is Ren? I'm not calling you Nur.
You could call me by your name.
You flirting with me? Are we doing like an Intendant Kira thing?
Ugh, this bit is taking too long. We need to get through the review.
Yeah, you are out of your mind if you think we're doing this review together.
Who said anything about together?
Wait, what?
Well, this should be fun. Ren's a little tied up. So I'll be taking over this review. What a treat.
It's so hot in here. Damn, bitch, you live like this?
It was a dark and stormy afternoon on the home planet of the Halkans, a race of people whom Kirk is currently negotiating with on behalf of the Federation. The Halkans planet has a supply of dilithium crystals that the Federation is interested in harvesting, but the Halkan people refuse to let them mine. Instead of seizing the planet like a real leader would, Kirk, McCoy, Uhura, and Scotty leave peacefully. Such is the way of the boring Federation. There is concern that the brewing ion storm may cause interference with the Enterprise's transporters. Sure enough, when the landing party is beamed up, an odd occurrence happens. Suddenly, the four find themselves on the Enterprise, but not as they know it.
Now we're talking.
This new bearded Spock tortures Lieutenant Kyle for nearly losing the landing party in the ion storm, much to the landing party's revulsion. It becomes quite clear to them that this is not their universe, but a mirror of their own, where the world is much more ruthless and bloodthirsty than theirs. In this Enterprise, the Federation doesn't exist. Instead, the Enterprise is commanded by the Terran Empire, a regime that inspires respect and fear throughout the galaxy. They realize that they must have switched places with their counterparts from this mirror universe, who are now inhabiting their world. Kirk sends Scott and McCoy to engineering to figure out how to send them back home.
I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
No, you're an engineer.
On the bridge, Uhura experiences some casual workplace sexual harassment from Mirror Sulu, and receives Imperial orders that Kirk is to destroy the Halkans for refusing to submit to the will of the Empire. Kirk, however, being the compassionate, peace-loving fool that he is, orders his crew to give the Halkans 12 hours to surrender, a decision that arouses suspicion in the Mirror crew. Kirk leaves and is tailed by Mirror Chekhov, who accosts him with a crew of cohorts in the corridor. Apparently, this fleet runs on a principle of survival of the fittest. If an officer on a starship is assassinated, those underneath him move up in rank. In the Mirrorverse, one can never trust the man in line behind him, for it is very likely he may be preparing to jab a knife into one's back. Luckily, Kirk is rescued by a crewman looking for a payout. Kirk puts on the role of barbarian and rewards the blackmailer with a knuckle sandwich for his troubles.
Not on my ship.
Kirk looks into his counterpart's service records and finds to his horror that in this world, Mirror Kirk was not appointed to the role of captain of the Enterprise, but instead murdered his predecessor, Christopher Pike, and went on to commit various, what I guess would be considered war crimes in your little snowflake universe. Speaking of which, Spock Prime has easily deduced that the foursome who beamed up to his Enterprise are not his crewmates, and has had them thrown in the brig, unimpressed by Mirror Kirk's threats and attempts at bribery. Back in the fun universe, Kirk and Mirror Spock watch as Chekhov is subjected to torture in the agony booth for his attempted mutiny. Mirror Spock admits to the captain that he is content in his role as second-in-command, wishing to focus on his scientific endeavors, and not wanting the attention from potential assassins that someone in Kirk's position attracts. He gives Kirk a friendly warning, however, that if his actions should jeopardize Spock's career, that Spock won't hesitate in taking Kirk out. and I don't mean on a date. In the captain's quarters, Kirk finds a woman laid out on his bed. She's Lieutenant Marlena Moreau, a science officer that Kirk's taken as his woman. Mirror Spock informs Kirk that he's been given orders to assassinate Kirk in the next 4 hours unless he destroys the Halkans as ordered. Moreau suggests using a device Mirror Kirk has in his possession called the Tantalus Field, a sort of CCTV system that can instantly kill any target. Moreau almost kills Spock with it, but Kirk stops her, unable to kill any version of his best friend. While Moreau is in the fresher, Scotty calms Kirk and tells him that unless they manage to beam back to their universe in the next hour, they'll be stuck in the mirror world forever. On the bridge, Uhura and her spectacular abs distract Mirror Sulu while Scotty and Bones rig the power to the transporter. Mirror Spock catches Kirk in the transporter room and demands an explanation for Kirk's strange behavior. In sickbay, Mirror Spock puts up a fearsome fight from all 4 of the Prime crew, eventually being knocked unconscious. Despite their rapidly closing window for escape, Bones insists they treat Mirror Spock's head wound before they go. As Bones works, Mirror Sulu arrives with his security detail, eager for the captaincy he'll receive if he slays both Kirk and Spock. However, Moreau, who's been spying on Kirk through the Tantalus Field, kills Sulu's men on sight. After Kirk, Uhura, and Scotty leave for the transporter room, Mirror Spock awakens and forces a mind meld with Bones, learning of the landing party's true origin.
I feel what you feel. I know what you know.
This is quite homoerotic.
No. In the transporter room, the landing party is met by Moreau, who holds them at phaser point, demanding to take Bones' place and join them in the Prime universe, deciding that she likes the nicer Kirk better than his counterpart. Uhura disarms her, however. Bones arrives in the transporter room with Mirror Spock in tow. Spock agrees to assist their return, desiring his own Kirk back. Before he leaves, Kirk encourages Mirror Spock to circumvent the inevitable galactic revolt against the Empire and take leadership, enforcing peace and diplomacy instead of terror and destruction. He entrusts Mirror Spock with the Tantalus Field to help him achieve this change. Mirror Spock promises to consider it before sending the landing party back. With everything back to the way it should be, Kirk and Bones ask their own Spock how he knew the Mirror crew weren't who they said they were.
It's far easier for you as civilized men to behave like barbarians than it was for them as barbarians to behave like civilized men.
After a bit of mutual teasing from the Triumvirate, the Prime universe's own Lieutenant Moreau enters the bridge.
The idea of a multiverse has existed since ancient Greece, but specifically the concept that multiple realities exist parallel to each other at the same time was put forward by Erwin Schrödinger in 1952. Everyone from philosophers to physicists to poets has wondered and speculated on it. Pop culture is currently undergoing a fascination with the concept of the multiverse, this idea that there are different versions of ourselves living vastly different lives. During a period in which everything in the world has gone to shit, it's no wonder we're all fantasizing about living in another universe. Not me, though. My life is great, especially compared to this sad sack. Tragic. Alternative history is a term used in fiction writing to explore what the world would look like if a certain world event had had a different outcome. For example, what would our current present look like if the Confederacy had won the American Civil War? Or what if the 9/11 attacks had never happened? In City on the Edge of Forever, Kirk and Spock are faced with the prospect of the Axis powers potentially winning the Second World War due to a change they unwittingly made to the past, altering the timeline. What if the Mirrorverse takes place in that reality? The Mirror Universe serves as a contrast to what Starfleet and the Federation stand for, where the Federation seeks coexistence with other alien races and the never-ending gain of knowledge about what lies beyond their home planets. The Empire is only interested in conquest, subjugation, and personal gain, which is the only way to live, in my opinion. The key element to any Mirror Universe episode is the exploration not in the way the world is different, but in the way the characters see their alternate selves, because the face in the mirror is not always a friendly one. Kirk is faced with a crueler, more ruthless version of him, a man who would eagerly stoop to levels of depravity that the Prime Kirk would be too morally stalwart to even think of. It's unclear whether Mirror Kirk had a past similar to his counterpart living on Tarsus 4 and withstanding the massacre there, but his record indicates that he's not shy about wiping out whole civilizations for his own personal gain and for the Empire. It's interesting that out of all these vast differences in both universes, Spock is the one thing that is mostly unchanged. Spock's predictions about the eventual decay of the Empire are an exploration in futurology, the study of events to come by reviewing past and present data. Nearly every major empire on Earth to this date has fallen, the exception, of course, being capitalism. It speaks to the fact that logic and rationality have no moral alignment, and that it is even in one's best interest not to act with wanton violence, though that's certainly not a very fun way to live. I miss my universe.
Then why don't you go back?
Oh, finally broke out of your restraints, I see. Took you long enough.
Get the out of my chair.
Oh, relax. I'll be going back to my own universe in a minute. You know, this was rather fun.
Fun? For whomst?
Well, if you're up for it, I'd be open to collaborating again sometime.
Well, sadly, this is the only Mirrorverse episode in the original series, so, happy trails.
Aw, no kiss goodbye.
Yeah, I don't have the editing skills for that.
Boo. Well, here's looking at you, kid.
Well, that was a thing. Anywho, happy April Fools.
Holy mother-forking shirt balls. This is the bad place.